This is JP with Political Pop Culture, and this is my take. All right, so are you familiar with Paul Krugman? Paul Krugman, the so-called economist who is, frankly, I don't know if he's ever been right about anything in his entire career. Paul Krugman is now blaming the media. He's actually saying that the media is failing, and that's why Americans believe that Joe Biden's economy is a dumpster fire. Yeah, it's not the inflation's fault. It's not the fact that gas is more than double what it cost 2 years ago. It's not that the price of meat and eggs and milk and everything else that you need to buy to feed your family is up. No. It's the media's fault. So I want to give credit where it's due. I want to give credit where it's due because I don't generally pay a lot of attention to things that Paul Krugman says for obvious reasons. But I saw this headline today on redstate.com, and I read the article. It was a great article, and I thought it was worth talking about. So I'd like to thank Mike Miller, who is the author of the story, the journalist who wrote the original story, and then I'll be quoting some of that here. And I wanted to thank Mike Miller again for bringing the story to my attention. This story, the headline reads, I'm going to put it up here so you can see it. The headline reads, Paul Krugman blames media failing for Americans believing Biden's economy is a dumpster fire. Add noted economist and New York Times columnist Paul Krugman to the list of left-wingers desperately trying to convince tens of millions of hard-working, everyday Americans that the economy isn't as bad as they know it is, and that they aren't suffering nearly as much as they know they are. As frustrating as life in Biden's America has become for some and devastating for others, it's still humorous at times watching Joe and Democrats, always aided by their useful idiots in the liberal lapdog media, blame everyone and everything else for crises they alone have foisted on the American people. Well, hey, Paul Krugman has been nothing if not a useful idiot. I mean, this is the guy who in 2016 said that if Trump were elected president, the stock market would crash and never recover. I think the direct quote was, okay, I'm sorry. Getting back to the article here. The desperate attempt to change the long accepted definition of recession is one such example. Now, the standard definition of recession, I'm reading from the article here, the standard definition of recession for decades has been, quote, a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP, that's gross domestic product, in 2 successive quarters. Per that accepted definition, the U.S. officially entered a recession on August 1st. Or did it? It is no secret that the lapdogs in the media have been bending over backwards to claim that the U.S. is not in recession, despite all evidence to the contrary. Look, just last week, virtually every news outlet in the U.S. was reporting 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. But now we're going to move the goalposts. And is anybody really surprised? I mean, really? Is anyone really surprised? Later on in the article, Mr. Miller continues, as reported by CNN Business on Sunday, Krugman not only declared that the U.S. economy is not in a recession, he said the distinction doesn't even matter. Here's a quote from Paul Krugman. Jobs are abundant, although maybe the job market is weakening. Inflation is high, though maybe inflation is coming down. What does it matter whether you use the R word or not? Well, Paul, I'll tell you, it's because words matter. It's because the truth matters. Look, just because your side is losing, that doesn't give you the right to say the score doesn't really reflect how the game is going. This is the Biden recession, period. You are wrong now as you have been wrong throughout your career. I mean, hey, how about some examples? Remember when Paul Krugman said the growth of the internet would slow drastically and that by 2005, the internet's impact on the economy would be no greater than the fax machine? Yeah, how about when you predicted Obama's stimulus would create 4% growth? Or my personal favorite, when you said the economy would crash when Trump took office. It's like this guy gets off on being wrong. In fact, Krugman is wrong so often, he should qualify as a contrary indicator. Look, I'm sure as hell not giving anybody financial advice, but good Lord, if Paul Krugman says sell, now is likely the time to buy. Okay, let me jump back into this article for just another minute here, and then I'm going to wrap this up. So again, Mr. Miller continues, the quote, noted economist continued, observing that in today's divisive environment, the debate over whether or not to use the word recession by some members of the media has become especially vitriolic. Now, as Mr. Miller points out here, in case you missed it, that's the setup. It's the media's fault. And here's the quote from Krugman. I've never seen anything as bad as the determination of a lot of people to say it's a recession. It's above and beyond anything I've ever seen. Negative news stories often get the most attention, but when it comes to the economy, a plurality of voters appear to not be aware of its underlying strength. I think what's happening now is that there's been a kind of negativity bias in coverage. Let's unwrap that really quick. He says he's never seen anything as bad as the determination of a lot of people to say it's a recession. That's because it's a recession. When you have 2 quarters in a row of negative GDP, that is a recession. You can run from it, you can hide from it, but the fact of the matter is, no matter what you say, and no matter how you try to change the narrative,
you lose.
Look, here's the thing. I know it sounds like I'm making light of this, and I'm not. I'm making fun of Paul Krugman, of course, because the guy is an imbecile. But I am not making light of the situation, because here's the thing. It is not just Paul Krugman who is the loser in this mess. It is all of us. It is every single person in the United States who has seen their paycheck, the power of their paychecks, decrease because of increasing energy prices, increasing food prices, increasing prices of everything. Miller concludes by saying, finally, Krugman got to the real issue at hand by inadvertently playing his hand. They want their Biden recession. They're going to have it. Never mind the fact there's not a recession in any technical sense. Translation, the Republicans want to hang the traditional definition of recession around Biden's neck, and I'll be damned if I'm going to give it to them, so there. I don't know anybody that wants a recession. I don't know anybody who is happy about the fact that they're paying more for gas, that they're paying more for food, that they're paying more for everything they have to buy to keep their lives and their families going. This isn't about wanting a Biden recession. This is about placing the blame where it belongs. The Biden administration's anti-American policies are directly responsible for the shape of the economy today. Biden's failure to stop hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens violating our southern border and becoming yet another burden to taxpayers, or borrowing billions of dollars from China to send to Ukraine. They're spending copious amounts of money on social programs that we don't need and can't afford. These are all things contributing to the dismal shape of the economy. And no matter how much the White House and their sycophants like Paul Krugman or Brian Stelter want to alter the definition, this is Biden's recession. That's my take. What's your take? You can let me know your take in the comments below, and you can also let me know by joining the cult at Pol Pot Cult on Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Thank you for listening.